You play to win the game. You don't play to just play. Come after me! I'm a man! I'm for you! Can't wait! Let's go!
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show here on Sports Empire Network. Thank you for making us part of your morning routine, whether you're watching us live on YouTube and Facebook, or you're watching us live on Roku TV over on Northeast Streaming Sports. We appreciate you being here. I am Chris, and of course, that is Mo. Mo, how are you this morning, sir?
Doing good on a Friday evening. Right on the eve of Friday, so I'm fired up. We're getting ready to head into another great football weekend, so what's not to be excited about?
And we got some football tonight, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But, Mo, I want to start with this morning. So, of course, this dominated the headlines yesterday. It was announced the man himself is back practicing for the New York Jets. The 21-day window has opened for Aaron Rodgers. He had his first practice with the New York Jets yesterday since tearing his Achilles earlier this season. Mo, that means the clock has officially started as far as the return of Aaron Rodgers this season. So now we have to start looking at what's coming ahead, right? We know he's not going to play this week. We know that he's not going to play against the Atlanta Falcons. That's basically where we stand so far. The Jets have the possibility, in my opinion, of beating the Atlanta Falcons. It's not out of the realm of possibility. The Atlanta Falcons struggle to do things offensively. I think the biggest question going into that game is going to be, can the Jets score any points? Because that seems to be the question the entire season without Aaron Rodgers in there, is because they're just not scoring points as a team. Let's assume they beat the Falcons. They beat the Falcons. They go from 4-7 to 5-7, and now they're lined up to play the Houston Texans next week. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to be ready for that game. Initially, when he first started talking about his return, Mo, they were kind of saying the Dolphin game, and then they were saying, well, maybe it's going to be Christmas Eve and it's going to be the Washington game the week after the Miami game, but let's assume that it is going to be the Dolphin game. That means the Jets are going to have to beat Houston without Aaron Rodgers. And I think that's where this all falls apart. The Jets are a 7-loss team right now, which means if they win out and they win their next 6 games, they finish 10-7. 10-7 might be good enough to sneak into the playoffs in the AFC. I think it's going to require 10 wins of all playoff teams in the AFC.
Agreed.
I don't think 9 is going to be enough, which means the moment they lose a game, they're probably done. They're probably out of the playoffs. So, Mo, what do you do if you're the Jets when it comes to Aaron Rodgers? Assuming I want to say assuming he's completely healthy, but I feel like he's not going to be completely healthy at all this season because of how quickly he's coming back from the Achilles injury. I feel like he's going to be at a point where he's pretty good. And, the doctor is going to be like, yeah, you should be okay. But I feel like he's not going to be completely healthy if he plays this season.
Not completely healthy and still doing his work behind a makeshift offensive line. That's one of the worst in football. And one of Aaron Rodgers' strengths, and this, is his ability to extend plays with his legs. But I don't think Aaron Rodgers comes back and he has his legs fully under him, like where he's able to avoid a defensive tackle and sprint to the right and zip one of those darts to the sidelines. We're also talking about Aaron Rodgers is basically very close to being 40 years old. The body doesn't respond the same way. Like, even if he hadn't got injured, because we saw so very little of him in the Jets uniform, I don't know how athletic he was coming into the season. I have no idea. I would have to literally reach back and look at what he did with Green Bay, because that's a better sample size, what he did with the Packers last season. I look at the Jets and I get it. they figure if we can get Aaron back, like you said, 10-7's good enough. But if he's not going to be fully healthy and you risk injury this late in the season, if he were to be injured this late in the season, you're looking at him maybe missing most of next season. I just don't think it's worth the risk. And to me, you know what? My gut feeling is I don't think we'll have to find out about it because I don't think they're going to be able to beat the Texans without him. I don't think so. The defense is great, but the offense is anemic. And the Texans, the way they play, they throw the ball a lot. Your defensive line will be gassed coming at CJ Stroud. And at some point, I'm pretty sure the Texans will put up at least 10 or 17 points. That's way too many points for the Jets to come back from. They might as well put up 40 if it's against the Jets. So if you want to bring Aaron Rodgers back to give the fans a sample of what next year might look like, that's intriguing. I would pass on bringing Aaron Rodgers. If they lose to the Texans, don't bring him back at all.
I think, and I've been toying with this for the last 24 hours. I think we're going to see Aaron Rodgers play this season. I don't agree with it. I don't think it's the right move. And I think we're going to see it for what you just said. I think that the Jets ownership wants fans to know what next year could look like. And I think that, depending on what happens over the next couple of games might determine when we see Aaron Rodgers. So, if they lose their next two games against the Texans and the Falcons, now they have 9 losses. Now they're basically out of the playoffs altogether. Now they're coming up on Miami. I don't know if we see Aaron Rodgers in Miami against a Dolphins team that is needing to win games because they're playing for seeding in the AFC playoffs potentially. I think we might see him the following week, Christmas Eve, against Washington, a team that's playing for nothing, a team that doesn't have a great defense, a team that Aaron Rodgers can probably stand in the pocket pretty comfortably and carve apart, a team that isn't a division rival who is going to be like, really? You want to put Aaron Rodgers against the? Okay, fine. You do that. You bring out Aaron Rodgers and we'll show you something. I think that's what we're going to see if they lose their next 2 games. If they win their next 2 games, I think it's all but certain we're going to see him in Miami with a chance to get back to 500 and to keep this high hope playoff train on the tracks. But I think we're going to see him regardless, and I don't think it's a great idea, especially if you're already out of playoff contention. But I think they're going to try to appease the fan base, and I think they're going to try to say, hey, this is what we could have been this year. Stick with us because it's going to be a show next year once he's back for a full season.
But it's a business move,
right? And I think
let me lock in those season ticket holders.
But like you said, Mo, the line sucks. It's not good.
So it does. And look, I know we could go, well, if that's the case, then how come you guys are killing Zach Wilson? It's not the same thing. It's not at all. It's the line sucks, but Aaron Rodgers can make quick reads and he would still be effective to a degree with the bad line. Zach Wilson, when the line even held up, bad things happened. Not the same thing at all. I think you're right. It's a business move. They want to give the fans and the season ticket holders some hope going into next year, right? If they're not going to be in the playoffs, this is what we could have been if we had Aaron the entire season. Get on the train because next year we're winning it all. We're going to be a problem. I still don't think that's a good idea. I'm with you, but you know what? It is a business move. If you're not in the playoffs and you bring him back, that's all it could be is a business move.
And Mo, their last 3 games, like I said, this is all based on what happens over the next 2. If they lose the next 2, I don't think we see him against Miami. I think he comes back against Washington. I think they probably win that game. And then they have the Browns and the Patriots on their schedule. Yes, the Browns are a good defense, but, they don't have any offense right now because we don't even know who's going to be their starting quarterback come that game. And then after that, he has the Patriots. So if they go 3-0 or 2-1 down the stretch against 2 bad teams in Washington and New England, you know that Jet fan is going to be sitting here saying, well, we only beat Washington and we only beat New England. No, Jet fan's going to say, look what he did when he got in there.
Exactly.
Look what he did. Look at the numbers he put up. They won 2 out of 3, or they won 3 in a row. Imagine if he had played the entire season. And that's what you want if you're the New York Jets organization. You want that momentum heading into the offseason after what's been an absolutely abysmal season. And if I'm Robert Saleh, part of me wants that too.
Oh, I know he wants it for sure.
Part of me is like, can I please get the taste of Zach Wilson and Tim Boyle off of myself coming out of the season? Because that's not what I want people looking at me thinking about. I want them to be like, damn, what if he had Aaron the entire season with that defense?
Look what Saleh did the last 3 games of the season. You got to bring him back. He's definitely
our
guy. He is our guy, right? He's our guy. So I know he won't say it out in public, but of course Saleh's like, please, Aaron, let's go. He needs Aaron Rodgers to solidify his own position.
All right, Mo. Let's bring JG in. It's a Thursday. It's a JG kind of day. I got lots of things to talk to JG about this morning, and a lot of it. Hey, listen, baseball's a crazy thing, Mo. It's only been a few days, but as a Yankee fan, I'm feeling really good about myself this morning. Hopefully, JG doesn't crush that because he likes to crush my dreams on the morning show.
I noticed that.
Yeah, I know. It's like he enjoys it or something. It's completely ridiculous. JG, welcome to the show this morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good. Good morning, guys. How y'all?
Hey,
I hope I'm doing good in about 10 minutes as well,
JG.
JG.
Chris, it's not that I enjoy crushing your dreams. Yankee fans make it easy, though, especially in recent times. It's very easy to do.
It is. But you know, as a Yankee fan, we hang on to these little sliver of hopes. So let's start with adjacent Yankee business. And that is Luis Severino signing a 1-year, $13 million deal with the crosstown rivals, the New York Mets. JG, what are the Mets doing? First they said we're not competing next year. Let's sell the house. We're not doing it. Then it looked like, well, no, we're not competing, but we want to keep some guys on the team. We want to be respectable, so we're not going to trade away, everyone. We're going to keep some pieces around here. And now they're in talks for, big free agent names because now they're like, well, maybe we're going to compete a little. What does this mean? What are they going to do next season? Because we've seen all 3 versions. They've said they're not competing. They said that they're going to keep names like Alonso because they don't want to be, complete dumpster fire. They want to be respectable. And then they're throwing out themselves with, big free agent names saying, well, maybe we want to compete a little bit. What should we expect from the Mets? Because, the Severino deal doesn't mean they want to compete. Severino had a terrible season with the Yankees, but they did pay him $13 million for a year, which, maybe that's what he's worth. I don't know. I wouldn't have given him $13 million coming off of the year that he had. But what do you think the Mets are trying to do next season realistically?
Well, you pay Severino, kind of focus on Severino first. You pay him because you do kind of hope he rediscovers himself because it's not all in the grand scheme of value in starting pitchers. $13 million is actually pretty low end. And if Severino can rediscover, let's kind of put it this way: if the Mets are middle of the pack, kind of behind and around, and flirting with 500, but they're under 500, and Severino does pitch like he has when he's been really good for the Yankees, you sell him and trade him, and you get some prospects back at that point. Because again, as you said, what is the Mets' identity? Well, they as you pointed out and very accurately have pointed out, they don't really know what the identity is because they tell people one thing, they tell their players another thing, and they tell the media a third thing. So they're all over the place on what their identity is going to be. Are they a contender? Are they going to be a contender in 2024? Absolutely not. Are they going to be a contender in 2025? Probably not. 2026 is probably the realistic, which is why they made the deals they made at the trade deadline or in 2023, because they know they were falling behind Braves are just absolutely. I know in the regular season, I'll put that out there. In the regular season, the Braves are absolutely, just a force to reckon with. The Philadelphia Phillies are a force to be reckoned with. So you're falling behind, and you have the Miami Marlins who are actually, flirting to be a pretty decent team continuously so far. So how do you get better? Well, you have to reload at some point, and that's what the Mets need to do, and they did a little bit during the season. I agree that I think Alonso should be traded. It's not like he's the biggest difference maker for you. Yeah, he's your big run producer, but he had moments still in the last 2 years during your collapses of chasing for a division title where he disappeared. And if the value is still high for him, sell him. Unload him. Go get new prospects. Rebuild some in ways, because the money's not going to be hurting, but you can rediscover what you need and go get some players here and there and reload your farm system, develop them, and be able to at least catch up to the Braves and Phillies over the next 2 to 3 years. And that's what they should be doing. Severino deal, like I said, I think it's a good deal for the Mets, and it's definitely a good deal for Severino, because if he does pitch well, he increases his value. He could get a bigger contract after the 2024 season, or he gets sold at the trade deadline, and the Mets get something out of him, and he goes to a contender. So, they're all over the place, but they need to figure out how to just sell, rebuild, and hopefully in 2-3 years, and I say hopefully just being unbiased here, they figure out how to be able to be a contender down the road.
JG, who the hell is Jackson Chario? And why are we talking about him getting this huge contract when he has not played in the big leagues yet? What is this? Because this does not happen in Major League Baseball, where people that we have never seen play Major League Baseball before are signing huge contracts. Is this the next face of baseball, or what are we looking at here?
This is, and you can. I'll go back to my Braves. You kind of credit the Braves for doing this. They started not necessarily not extending guys who are in the minors, but extending guys very early to get out of their arbitration years. Where they did that with Ronald Acuna, they did it with Ozzie Albies, they did that with Michael Harris last year, they did it with Spencer Strider as well. They've already they locked in after 1 or 2 years. They lock in their young guys. The Chicago White Sox did the same thing to Luis Robert Jr. Tampa Bay Rays, and I know the Tampa Bay Rays completely regret it now, but they did it to Wander Franco. And so this has been a trend where you are extending guys at a young age who are projected, and that's the key word in this. They're projected to be able to be superstars. Their potential says superstar. Again, go down the list I just said: Ronald Acuna, Luis Robert, Wander Franco. Those are the guys that when you have a scout meeting or a staff meeting in the front office, and you pinpoint in your farm system who are the guys who are dudes that we're going to build this organization around for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. So they look at it and say, well, instead of playing out 4 or 5 years of big league time frame, and they put themselves in position where they're going to be making $200 million past pre-arbitration, because arbitration sucks for everybody, for the team and for the player. If you don't believe it, look at Milwaukee Brewers with Corbin Burns and how bad that has turned out for both sides right now, where they didn't really talk. The front office and Corbin Burns didn't talk for a good portion of 2022. They didn't talk a lot during the 2023 season either, and now they're trying to figure out how to move on from each other still again. So arbitration sucks for everybody, and it's so stressful for the players, and it's stressful for the team, because you're having to diss a star player or one of your better players or a player that you wanted to build around. You're having to basically go after them and say, yeah, hey, you're good, but this is why we don't want to pay you what you think you're worth. So if you can sign the player through, extend them and get away from arbitration, it makes so much sense for everybody involved. But it makes sense for the team to do it early. That way you get them at a premium discount. Again, using Ronald Acuna Jr. Ronald Acuna signed an 8-year, $100 million contract. 8-year, $100 million contract. He just won MVP, 70 stolen bases, 40 home runs. should be making $300 million, but he's only being paid. He's in his contract $100 million. That's a steal and a discount for the Braves right there. So so if you're able to get them done early, get them done early. Now this is just unprecedented that we're seeing a guy sign without taking a step on a Major League Baseball field, and that's what's making this a little bit head scratcher that the Brewers are doing. But they clearly have pinpointed Chourio to be the guy, and they're going to base the core around and be the leader of this franchise for hopefully 5, 6, 7, 10 years down the road.
JG, as I sit here this morning, I'm trying not to get 2008 offseason vibes here when, the Yankees went out and they brought in 3 big names. All right. And then, the great things happened afterwards because the Yankees are attached to 3 big names right now. It looks like things are heating up with the Soto trade, and it looks like the Yankees are the front runner at the moment for that. Heyman was on yesterday talking about that the Yankees and the Padres are finally discussing names. They're discussing compensation, and he thinks that Soto is going to get moved next week during the meetings. He also thinks that Bellinger is still in play for the Yankees, whether they get Soto or not. He thinks the Yankees are looking to kind of redo their outfield, and I'm just sitting here like, hey, throw money out there. That's what I like. And then the other report coming out yesterday was, the Yankees are putting together their pitch for Yamamoto. They're putting his number aside for him. They got the whole thing lined up for him. Obviously, his courtship is going to be a little bit longer. There are a lot of teams in on him. He's already said that he's going to go on this big stadium tour, and he wants to see all of Major League Baseball before he makes his decision. And I say good for him because let them all wine you and dine you because that's the way it works. What are the odds? Let's start with Soto and Bellinger. What do you think are the odds that the Yankees, A, pull off a trade for Soto and then go after Bellinger? And if that happens and they're able to sign Yamamoto, are they not finally doing what they need to do as far as 1, bringing in left-handed bats, 2, bringing in youth, and 3, actually making moves that could set them up for the future, talking 5, 6 years, as opposed to what they've been doing in recent years, which is this year and next year kind of thing?
Yeah, it's intriguing how that Soto deal is being placed and put together. Again, if you talk about the players that are being involved, Anthony Volpe has been mentioned, Jason Dominguez has been mentioned, pitcher Drew Thorpe, and then you also throw in, I'm looking at the list here, there's 2 other pitchers that were mentioned, Michael King and Clark Schmidt, that might be in the deal for Soto to the Padres. But if you're looking at it and look at for the Padres' perspective here, and again, I'm not trying to crush your dreams, Chris, but I'm just being realistic here. What does Anthony Volpe do for you? Where do you play him? You have Xander Bogaerts at shortstop. Volpe is a shortstop. So correct me if I'm wrong. And you had another shortstop before bringing in Bogaerts, and you moved him to the outfield in Fernando Tatis Jr. So what is the fit for Volpe if you're the Padres here? That one I don't really get. Getting Dominguez as far as an outfielder will help because you have a hole. If you move Soto, you have a hole in the outfield. Dominguez can fill that hole out in left field for you, and that would make a lot of sense for in doing so. And then getting some pitchers, which is again, you're never going to turn down pitching. If you're a Major League Baseball team, no matter what, and getting these guys who are hopefully develop well, because again, we know how the Yankees farm system works and the development of prospects. It's not the best, and I won't even put it in the top 10 on how they develop their players, because that's why they go get Garrett Cole. That's why they go get guys who, they're just more established, and they go get them in the big leagues. We don't really see very often guys in the minors get worked up, work through the minor league system, get to the big leagues, and absolutely tear it up and dominate for the Yankees and the pitching staff. So it's a question mark on that side of it. If you're the Padres, are these guys that we're going to build our foundation for with the players that we have, with Bogaerts, with Tatis Jr. You do have Darvish in the rotation still right now, but he is getting older. So you're going to need to be able to kind of pair off these young guys to develop them and be there in the rotation with Joe Musgrove and Darvish at least for a couple of years, and then hopefully turn it over to them to being what they're supposed to be. But I think at the moment right now, is there anybody else that's going to put together a better package? I think that's the bigger question right now, and I don't think that's actually being the case, and that's why the Yankees are the front runners for Soto. Because at the end of the day, it's already been said he's not signing an extension. Soto's not going to sign an extension. He's going to go to free agency at the end of the 2024 season. Well, who's the one team in their history 30, 40, 50 years that'll just say, yeah, we don't care. We'll bring a player in. And if they sign an extension, great. If they don't, they go to free agency. Oh, well, as long as we get what we want out of it, which is a championship, who freaking cares? Well, that's the New York Yankees. So that's why, again, they're kind of putting that idea out there. I'm intrigued to see if they can actually pull it off to get Soto and Bellinger in the same outfield, because you're going to have to move some guys still. You're going to have to be able to move around players. And one of them, and I know he hasn't played outfield very much in recent times, but Giancarlo Stanton is going to be one that you're going to have to figure out how to move on from. And I think that's probably why Cashman has been kind of against Stanton at times and spoken out. And they probably realized that they're just going to have to eat a lot of that money and majority of that money that's left over and just say, hey, trade. We'll take a bad contract, or we'll just give us a couple prospects. We'll give you $15 million for the next 2 years or whatnot, and we'll just get rid of Stanton at that point. They're going to have to move on from Stanton and then be able to have an outfield of Judge, Soto, and Bellinger. That's good, and that's a pretty good lineup. That's a very strong, powerful lineup that can create some buzz of the Bronx Bombers of older days in the last decade to 15 years. You could probably have that idea coming back for. And as you said, they got younger too. Getting Soto's 24 years old, I believe, and so you get younger. Bellinger's, he's done his 20s. You're getting younger, so that's an ideal situation if you're the Yankees, if you can pull it off. And I think that's the bigger question: is are they going to be able to pull that off? That's to be seen. Yamamoto, he's going to be courted, as you said. He's going to enjoy the ride of Major League Baseball free agency. He's going to enjoy seeing the sights and the city and his teams. But again, he is the front runner, or the Yankees are the front runner for him as well. So it does. They've been eyeing him and scouting him and wanting him for a year and a half. So it just makes sense that right now that they're pushing for it. They're going to want him. They're going to be the favorites for him as well.
JG, the one thing I want to bring up before we get you out of here, and obviously you wouldn't know the answer to this. This is purely speculation. Yamamoto's people were asked about whether or not he'd be willing to play with Shohei Ohtani, and they signified that he would be. But then the question has been brought up by other Major League Baseball analysts of if that were to happen, if they were to end up on the same team, wouldn't it be fair to say that he would be overshadowed by Ohtani because of who Ohtani is and what Ohtani has already done? And they were just throwing out the question of, wouldn't it make more sense that he would want, because he's a 3-time pitcher of the year coming out of Japan. He's only 25 years old. He could, especially if you're looking at the injury history with Ohtani currently, and we don't know what his pitching future is, people are saying it's possible he could be just as good as Ohtani pitching wise. Obviously he's not a hitter. So with that in mind, people are wondering in the baseball world, does he really want to do that? Does he really want to kind of be in Ohtani's shadow coming into the league? Or would he just prefer to go somewhere else that's just, probably not the Dodgers, because it looks like that's where Ohtani's going. So wouldn't he just prefer not to sign with the Dodgers, kind of be that big name Japanese signing and go from there? Or do you think none of that stuff really matters?
So like I said, speculation, because I'm not in the camp and whatnot, but being around Japanese ball players, and I've had a handful of times and played with a few over the years in my career, they don't care about that.
Okay.
Japanese culture does not care. They're like, everybody has egos. Every culture, every country, every person, there's all an ego. But at the same time, Japanese culture basically tells you, ego has to be put aside. Respect matters most. And at the end of the day, those two respect each other more than anything else in this game. So it doesn't matter that, if you're going to be overshadowed. Because number one is, what's the end goal? What's the end goal for Shohei? He wants to win.
Right.
He wants to win. If he's the guy, great. If he was the guy, and he essentially supplanted the guy in the Angels organization and was the guy, and did not get anywhere near playoff opportunity. So in essence of if whoever gets overshadowed, if it's Otani that could get overshadowed, or if it's Yamamoto gets overshadowed, they don't care. As long as they win, but at the same time, they have the respect for each other as ball players, as countrymen, as people. And that's what Japanese culture is about. So no, they don't care. Just from my own personal experience, that is not even a blip or a thought in as far as who's going to be the limelight, who's going to get the credit, or who's going to be overshadowed by who. That is the farthest thing that is probably on their mind on that. As long as they have the respect for each other as Japanese ball players, the respect of each other as people, and that following along in their culture matters more than anything else.
JG, always a pleasure having you here on the show. We'll see you next week, sir.
Absolutely, guys. Appreciate it.
Mo, I found this pretty interesting yesterday. So, Coach Prime, very outspoken, always says what's on his mind, right? Obviously, you guys, when I wasn't here earlier in the week, you talked about the success or the non-success of the Colorado program. But now Coach Prime is seeing the next wave. So, when he found success at Jackson State, what was happening? Players wanted to come play for him. So he was pulling recruits that maybe we didn't think Jackson State was ever going to pull, right?
Agreed.
Then he goes to Colorado, and he pulls some people to Colorado with him where we're like, whoa, look, he's bringing in some decent talent, right? And then he goes to the transfer pool, and he's bringing in people from there. He fires half the team, and he brings in new players. And now as he's getting ready to wrap up his first season at Colorado and prepare for his second season, he's had some people decommit. There was a story a couple of weeks ago when he had his best commit, Rigneg, and decided they were going to go somewhere else. And since then, he's had two more players follow suit. And it's interesting now, Mo, because Dion came out a couple of days ago and he kind of talked about that. He said that, it's kind of messed up that players can commit to a school and the school kind of banks on that player coming and they do different things based on who they think is going to come play for them, and then at a whim that player can just decide, nope, I don't want to play here anymore, and then go somewhere else. And he talked about the respect factor and all this stuff. And Mo, I look at that and I hear what he's saying. I completely understand what he's saying. But Mo, I also have to look at, it was only a handful of months prior that he dipped his fist into the transfer pool and he picked up a bunch of kids that did the exact same thing to their previous school.
Right.
Mo, come on. You can't talk out of both sides of your mouth like that,
right,
even if you're Coach Prime.
And I love everything that Coach Prime has done up to this point. But you can't go that route, bro. The hypocrisy is insane. And look, I think with some of the guys, the young men pulling back and going to other schools, there is a backlash to a degree that a case can be made for rival schools pursuing some of the same recruits, right? Because a lot of people now, you can kind of use who and what Dion is and say, that guy makes it all about him, right? Mm-hmm. He's the show. You're as good as you are, you're a co-star in his show. He's the show. And you can talk about NIL, but we can give you NIL and we're going to be a better football team. Like, welcome to big time college football. I'm not saying nothing's changed for me in the sense that do I believe Prime will turn Colorado around? I think he will. But do I think they're going to be talked about the way we talk about Ohio State, Michigan, and some of the bigger schools, Georgia, when we talk about national championship? I don't want to be a downer, but I don't think so. I think that for him to scale that ladder, he would have to turn Colorado around and go to a bigger school still. Like that's the only way I can see that happening for him. Now I'm sure he would totally disagree. That Mo doesn't know what he's talking about. We're going to win it all here. And I can only say it's certainly possible. But the backlash of him being as big a personality as he is, the ego that he has, how brash he's been and being so outspoken is, that can turn off some parents, that can turn off some recruits. And Colorado starting off the way they did, Chris, and then finishing the way they did. Look, recruits, like we talked about, they have egos. They want to win too. They don't want to just go to a school, be the best player, but not be relevant. And they're looking at Colorado, some of those guys, and going like, "Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think I'll sign up for that show." And that's something that, as he really gets into recruiting and really engaging, Prime is going to have to balance out, because he takes up a lot of oxygen in every room that he's in. You know that, and I know that.
That's a great way of putting that. And Mo, the other thing that it may not be fair, but it is what it is. You have to overcome the fact that you're coaching Colorado. That means that, let's be honest, Colorado high schools aren't producing great football talent on a regular basis like California high schools are, or Texas high schools are.
Yes, Texas. Right.
That's just the truth, right? I mean, Colorado high schools are not known for churning out talent. So you're not, you don't have the advantage of picking up some of your homegrown talent who maybe want to stay at home. Now you're trying to get talent that grew up in South Beach or in California or in Texas to come to Colorado to play in the cold, to play in the middle of nowhere, instead of going to a West Coast program or staying in a Southern program.
Right.
That's a hard sell, is it not?
And right. So is he going to be able to take away recruits, the 5-star guys that are in Georgia, from Georgia? No, not likely. Not likely. Because like you said, never mind that it's just Colorado, it's also the location. Like you said, everybody wants to play in the cold. Trust me, I've been to Colorado. It's freezing cold this time of year. Everybody's not about that life. Dion, love him, Coach Prime. He's got his work cut out for him. It is going to be a daunting challenge for him to put together a really big recruiting class, because I think some of the shine has kind of worn off.
Well, we got Key coming on the show here in a few minutes. She's going to talk some WWE stuff with us. But before we get to that, I want to get to this. It's not very often that an NFL team wins and you come out from the game thinking they need a new quarterback. But that's how I'm feeling after the Chicago Bears game, because I'm looking at Justin Fields, and Mo, we're 33 games. Last night, this past Monday night was his 33rd game in the NFL, and 65% of his passes last night didn't even go a yard. Some of them went negative yards because he's throwing behind the line of scrimmage. 65% of his passes. Mo, that tells me they don't want him throwing down the field. Though it's not like he was under pressure all night and he was just trying to get the ball out and he was just doing his check down all night. Most of those were designed throws. They were designed screens. They were designed, 2 or 3 yard out routes that they were hoping were going to break big, which, by the way, they didn't. The Chicago Bears defense creates 4 turnovers, and your franchise quarterback can't get you 1 touchdown. Oh, by the way, now Justin Fields has appeared in 35 games in his NFL career, and he has 35 fumbles in his NFL career. Mo, if you're the Bears with the number 1 draft pick, let's say it's number 1, and Caleb Williams is sitting there, don't you kind of look at it and say, we've done the Justin Fields thing. We know where we are. Caleb's a better prospect coming out of college. He's a better prospect than Justin Fields was coming out of college. Caleb Williams helps us financially because he's going to be on a rookie deal for the next 4 years. So we're back in the good quarterback zone. We're not paying our quarterback. Don't you kind of have to make that move if you have the first round draft pick? Yeah, it's different if you're 5 or 6 and you may not get, the top quarterback in the draft class. But if you're number 1, and let's be honest, I don't think Carolina is winning another football game this season after the turmoil that's happening down there. Is it time? Do you pull the plug on Justin Fields? And I'm not saying, Mo, he doesn't get another job. I'm not saying you can't trade him, because I think you can. And that's a conversation we're going to get into tomorrow on the show. I think there's going to be a market for Justin Fields if you want to move him. But the first question is, if you're the Bears, do you move him? Do you pull that trigger and say, we tried, but it's over?
So I've heard the argument that if you have that pick, the number 1 pick, that, well, what you can do is you can trade that and build out your roster and put more people around Justin Fields and then watch him flourish because he'll have more talent. The offensive line will be better, on and on. Yes, there's a case to be made. And I do think that front office right now, they're having that debate back and forth. My gut feeling is if they get the number 1 pick, they're going to take quarterback. That's my gut feeling. They're going to take quarterback. And you made, I think, the biggest point of all. That quarterback is going to be on a rookie deal for a while. You can build out a roster around him while he's on that rookie deal. And if he turns out to be as good as advertised, you'll be set up when he comes calling for the big money deal, right? You'll be set up. Justin Fields is in a situation, if you look at his record, if you look at his production and the turnovers, he's about to be wanting that bag. And if you're Chicago, like, do we want to give this guy the bag? Because I'm not feeling so good about giving this guy the bag. I have to believe they're leaning towards getting the quarterback. To me, I'm not saying Justin Fields is done. Far from it. You make the case, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. But I think Chicago is done with Justin Fields.
All right, man, let's take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to have Key on the show. We got things to talk about. We got CM Punk back in WWE. We have the fallout from Survivor Series. That's all on the other side of this break. Don't go anywhere. Stay right here. Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show on Sports Empire Network.
Hey, y'all, I'm Key.
And I'm Jory, and tune in to Hoop Dreams and Touchdown Queens every Saturday at 5 p.m. over on Sports Empire Network.
And don't forget, also watch us on Roku TV at Northeast Streaming Productions. So tune in.
Welcome back. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show here on Sports Empire Network. Before we talk to you, here we got breaking news. We just talked about it last segment with JG, but the Brewers have indeed signed Jackson Chourio to his deal, 8-year, $80 million extension for a young man who has never played a single game in the big leagues. That's a lot of money for doing absolutely nothing. Hopefully it works out for Milwaukee and he is what they think he is going to be. But Key, we're so excited to have you here. How are you today?
I'm good. I mean, I'm usually here on the Fridays, but I figured I don't think y'all wanted to talk to me while I'm sitting in the airport. So I figured today would be a good day.
Well, Key, let's just get right into it. We thought it might happen, then we didn't know if it was going to happen, and then they really tricked us into thinking it wasn't going to happen with Triple H throwing the copyrights up on the screen, the camera pulling out like we were all done, and then CM Punk's music hits. He makes his return. It's pandemonium in Chicago, obviously, which is what they wanted. I think they got the exact reaction they were looking for. And then we fast forward to Monday Night Raw. He closes out the show on Monday. He comes down. It gives a pretty generic, kind of low-key promo, if you will, for someone of CM Punk's caliber. But he says all the right things. He talks about how he's home. He talks about how, things have changed. People have changed, sort of echoing Triple H's sentiment from the press conference after the pay-per-view on Sunday, where Triple H was basically like, listen, if I was the same person I was 10 years ago, that would be an issue. If he was the same person he was 10 years ago, that would be an issue. A lot happens in 10 years. We're different people. Here is where we are now, and we're going to do business. So, Key, let's just start off with the big stuff. Do you think this Punk return is going to be successful for WWE? Because so much comes with it, and there's a million ways it can go wrong. But if it goes right, it could be great.
CM Punk's a moneymaker. Regardless what y'all say about him, y'all don't like him, y'all love him. CM Punk's going to draw money. And Triple H knows business. Going to put fans in the seats. Money's going to come. CM Punk is your big money maker, but also gives new feuds as well. You get to see Seth. That might be his next feud. Definitely going to be Seth Rollins and CM Punk. Seth Rollins already has some bad blood when it comes to CM Punk. In the interview that he had, he said CM Punk's a cancer. So of course, that's going to be a good feud. You can put him with so many people in WWE. It's not going to be like how he was at AEW. In my opinion, Tony Khan is like trying to be their friend and not their boss. So I guess many people might tend to, walk all over him, as you say. And now they're playing competition now. It just seems like maybe now WWE got the upper hand a little bit when AEW was up here for so many years. And then now it's kind of, the tide is changing hands, as we say. But I did say, I said, would I be surprised if he showed up? Yes, I didn't think H was going to pull the trigger, and he did. The promo could have been a little bit longer Monday night, but because of CM Punk and Randy Orton, both of them returning, CM Punk overshadowed Randy Orton's return. So they had Randy come out first on Raw, and then they had Punk in the show. But because Randy's match went so long, he only had 5 minutes. He was supposed to get 10. He had to wind some things down. That's why it's kind of a generic promo. But he said he's not here to make friends. He's here to make money. He's not that same guy. And I believe that things are not going to be like they was in AEW, where he just is going to run over people in the locker room. He already has a good locker room presence already. I don't think it's going to be no issues, and Triple H ain't going to let that go down like that.
Mo, to Key's point, I mean, when AEW brought CM Punk in, he was brought in to be a leader. He was brought in to kind of help guide the ship. He's not doing that in WWE. He's brought in to make money. He's going to have some high-profile matches and high-profile feuds, but he's just a guy in WWE. He's no different than Seth Rollins. He's no different than Roman Reigns. He's a big-name player, obviously, but they're not looking for him to be a locker room guy. They're not looking for him to steer the company. They're looking for him to just come in, have great matches, cut great promos, and then go home. And isn't that exactly what you want CM Punk to do?
100%, because he's got such a strong fan base and a strong following. Like he said, to her point, he's a moneymaker. He's a main event guy. And I don't know if they're going to set him up instantly for title matches, but just think of all the feuds like you guys brought up that he can have with all the different players out there. It could be with Randy Orton. It could be with Seth Rollins. You can go down the line. CM Punk is a main event guy, and WWE, Triple H and company, they're about money. They're about business, and he doesn't need to be a leader. When you look at, it's funny because time does fly. He used to be the new guard, and here we are 10 years later. I think he's about 45 or so. He's actually part of the older guard now. Orton, they've become the older guard now. But they're lifers, and when you're a lifer like those guys are, and you stay in the kind of shape that they do, they can still wrestle at the top level. They can still be main event guys. And I love that. As a fan, I'm looking forward to seeing the guy in the ring, period.
Mo, you brought it up, so I'm going to comment on it. Randy wasn't just doing leg day while he was gone. Randy was doing all the days because my guy was looking swole when
Ripped.
He came back. And like I said, we talked about it here with Key last week. I said, sometimes when it comes to Orton, it's about his physique. What is he going to look like when he comes out? That kind of determines, what version of Randy Orton we're going to get. And when he came out and he was jacked from head to toe, Mo, I was like, ho, Randy is ready. Randy is ready to play.
It was clean-shaven Randy, too.
Right. It was clean-shaven Randy.
His trap. I mean, when he stood toe-to-toe with McIntyre and he was comparable in size to McIntyre, I said to my friend next to me, I was like, do you see this version of Randy? Warrior Randy right now? Unbelievable. But Mo, you could tell Monday night. I mean, he's calling himself daddy out there with Rhea Ripley.
I love that.
I mean, you can tell in his match with Dom, and he did his job. He put Dom over a little bit, but he was laughing the entire match. He was having fun. Isn't this the version, Mo, that WWE wants from Randy Orton? The I'm happy, I'm fun, I'm just happy to be here kind of version?
I think it's the version that the fans will enjoy. So he doesn't have to win titles to be in big matches, right? Like Randy can kind of go around and like, you know how Undertaker was the latter part of his career. It wasn't about titles. It was just these mega feuds that got decided at these big pay-per-views. I think that's a perfect role for Randy Orton.
Key, with all these comebacks, you got Punk coming back, you got Orton coming back, you got R-Truth coming back, which, by the way, I think obviously is overlooked. He's the third one of the group, but the comedic presence that R-Truth brings to WWE programming, the entertainment value, and I know he doesn't get to wrestle a lot, but he's still a damn good wrestler as well.
He is 51, y'all.
Yeah, and he looks like he's 26 out there. I mean, I don't know. I literally, and I get it. Like, obviously, the guy takes care of himself, but you said it right there. He is 51 years old. And if you put him in a lineup with 26-year-old athletes, you wouldn't be able to tell that he's almost double their age. It's ridiculous how great of shape he is still in and how he keeps his body in that performance. Isn't it fair to say, and I know that people want to pit WWE versus AEW, and I personally would say that, you know, yes, AEW's done well for itself, and they've had moments in the ratings where they've beaten NXT and they've competed with SmackDown numbers here and there. But if you just look at the conglomerate that WWE is, AEW isn't close to that. And I think Tony Khan would acknowledge in a dark room where nobody was listening that he isn't that as well. But at the same time, you know, because Tony thinks he's competing with WWE and he thinks that, you know, they're on the same level to a certain extent, and that's fine for Tony. With these three signings and what WWE has done over the past 3 months, isn't this kind of Triple H and the new ownership group kind of flexing their muscles and being like, listen, it's cute, Tony, that you want to bring in Ric Flair. That's fine. It's cute that you want to bring in some big name players from New Japan who have never really wrestled here in America before. That's fine. But at the end of the day, it's cute that you want to bring in Edge and give him a bunch of screen time because WWE was like, listen, you're 45. We don't want you wrestling all the time. We don't want you to get hurt because you've been hurt a lot when you're with us, not wrestling a lot. So why are we going to put you in matches all the time? But at the end of the day, isn't it WWE key that if they want to flex the muscle, they're going to flex the muscle and they're going to kind of get their way at this point?
Most definitely they flexing right now because so you lose Edge. Of course, you know.
And that was a blow. That was a big blow. They didn't think that was going to happen.
What else can Edge do? I think Edge is pushing 50, if I'm not mistaken, as well. Ray, he's still moving. You know, he's still moving and shaking. They bring Carlito. That's another name. But so we lost Edge. AEW, yeah, they signed Will Ospreay. I get it, but he wasn't known here in the States. He's a New Japan guy. He still has to stick it out with New Japan until the end of his contract, and then he'll go to AEW. But the man's gonna live in England.
Right.
That was in his he's not even gonna be living over here in the States. But anyway, so we gained a Brian Pillman Jr. from AEW. We got Jade Cargill. Whenever she's ready, she'll be on the main roster to help that women's division. Then we get CM Punk again, moneymaker draw, and then you get Randy back, and then of course R-Truth, who's been in this business for a long time, still can go out there and do it with the best. But he is on now the trash people want to come. I'm sorry, y'all hear the trash in the background. Yeah, I mean, they deserve to flex, and I'm sure Triple H is not done with moves. I'm sure because it might be some people from AEW maybe that's going to come back. That's going to come over. They're not happy. Just be on the lookout for Britt Baker. She was talking about how she doesn't get no promo time. Everybody else has talked this year. She has not yet had a promo for herself. So I mean. The women, if Britt Baker decides to leave and come to a WWE, oh my God, the women's division would be crazy. You never know. Sasha Banks might return because of the whole thing with Bayley that's going to happen. You know, she might call up a friend. We won't know. But bringing bringing Sasha Banks, the bank statement, and the boss back to the women's division with Triple H in charge of everything, it's not going to be how when she was the champ. When Vince was there, Vince didn't know what to do with her. So, I mean, now all this talent's finally getting used the right way, long-term booking. We get the stories out of it. So, it's a possibility. Look out for that.
Key, one thing I can guarantee you, if Sasha Banks does come back, I promise you Triple H will not put the women's tag team championships on her, because that is clearly the fastest way to get Sasha to leave your damn company, is make her women's tag team champion. Guaranteed in 6 months she'll be gone.
Them belts are irrelevant.
She said that is so beneath her.
Just take those titles off. Those belts are so irrelevant. What's the point? If you have so much women talent, do like AEW, maybe get a secondary women's title. Maybe that'll help, but just get rid of those women's titles. Just get rid of them.
Yeah,
throw in the trash.
WWE, I'm sure they could use maybe a TV champion, right? Or something like that, like they did. But that would be better than the tag team belts.
No, 100% agree. Key, always a pleasure to have you on. Happy safe travels tomorrow on Friday.
Yeah, be safe.
And we will see you next week, all right?
Yes, sir.
Take care, Key.
All right, Mo, we got a few minutes left. Let's talk some NFL football, shall we? We got a football game tonight. If you're a Seattle Seahawks fan, it's not shaping up well for you, because this season, if there's one thing the Dallas Cowboys have done, it is handle business at home against teams they are favorited over. And the Seattle Seahawks have been kind of stumbling the past few weeks. They have some not so great losses on their resume this year. They're trying to hang around in the NFC playoff picture, and now they're coming into Dallas against a team that, let's be fair, they dominate average teams on their own turf. They're a big favorite tonight, Mo. Dak Prescott is playing well. He is putting himself into the MVP conversation. I don't think he should be the MVP, like Micah Parsons is saying, but I'm saying that his stats deserve to be in the conversation with Jalen Hurts, with Patrick Mahomes, with Josh Allen's numbers, with Tua's numbers. So I think he's in that conversation, and rightfully so. But I ask you this. Seattle is a potential playoff team. This isn't the same as Carolina coming into Dallas or the Giants coming into Dallas. Are they going to put up more of a fight tonight than we think they're going to put up?
I think so. I actually think it's going to be a close game. I think Seattle realized, remember now, like you just said, they've been a little bit disappointing as of late, but they're still in the playoff hunt. They need this win.
Yep.
So I think you get their best punch. I understand why Dallas is favored, and I do expect Dallas to win, but I don't think it's a blowout. I think it's a close contest, and the Cowboys pull it out late.
I'm going to go Dallas. I wanted to go Seattle. I just don't like what I've seen from Geno Smith lately. I think we're seeing, not the old Geno. I think we're seeing the real Geno. I think last year, was kind of a blip on the Geno radar, and he just played above his skis last year, and he played great. Not taking anything away from him, but I think this year he's playing more towards the mean of what he is as an NFL quarterback, which happens. Every now and then a player has a breakout year, and then they get back towards the middle where they actually belong. And I think what we're seeing this season is Geno Smith. It's going to be a tough defense tonight. They're going to be ramped up because they're home. They're going to expect to win by 30 or 40 points because that's what they usually do when they play these teams at home. I agree with you. I don't think it's going to be a 30-point blowout, but I think they might win by 10. I think it's going to be, comfortable at the end. I think it's going to be kind of continuous, maybe into the third quarter, and then they're going to pull away.
I can see that.
The tough part, though, Mo, is that Seattle needs this game. Seattle needs this game to keep pace in the NFC playoff picture. And if they lose tonight, they're going to fall to 6-6. They're going to be tied with the Vikings. And now if you're the other teams in the NFC, the Packers, the Rams, the Saints, you're licking your lips because now there's 2 playoff spots in the NFC that are basically wide open.
Exactly. Everybody's back in the picture, back in the hunt.
So Seattle really needs a win tonight to kind of lock down the 6th seed. And as far as kind of controlling their own destiny, I just don't think they're going to get it. But we'll see. Stranger things have happened.
You never know. This has been a crazy season. Agreed.
All right, Mo. Great show this morning. Close us out, sir.
Hey, appreciate everybody in the chat. Thank you for tuning in and watching us. Check out all the great content we have on Sports Empire Network. Check out the Empire.
Tomorrow morning, make sure you join us. Same time, same place. We're going to break down the amazing win streak that the Orlando Magic have been on. We don't talk a lot of Orlando Magic basketball, Mo, but I think it's time, at least for now, that we start talking about Magic basketball a little bit. We're going to talk about what might happen to Justin Fields during the offseason if the Bears move on from him. And of course, it's Friday, so we're going to break down everything that's happening in the NFL this weekend. Same time, same place, Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show, and we will see you tomorrow morning.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready. I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, from Brooklyn. Hey, you guys any